The government taking control of the Scunthorpe steel plant once again exposes the sorry record of British capitalism. The frantic briefing by Labour spin doctors insisting this was not nationalisation only highlights the Labour leadership's pathetic deference to the so-called logic of the market, even at the very moment that logic has so clearly and repeatedly failed. Ironworking in North Lincolnshire dates back to the Domesday Book, but it was the Victorian era that saw iron and steel production truly flourish, thanks to the Bessemer and open hearth processes that allowed mass production of cheap, high-quality steel. First World War arms production gave another major boost. By 1918, Scunthorpe's population had exploded from 1,000 in 1851 to 12,000, with 3 steel furnaces in operation. During the 1930s, Scunthorpe steel firms consolidated into 3 major companies to deal with overcapacity, despite protective tariffs around the British Empire. Once again, war demand drove production, with government aid modernising facilities from 1938 onwards. Scunthorpe's population topped 50,000 by the end of World War II. After 1945, British Steel faced global competition with a chronic lack of investment. Private owners took profits but reinvested little, while Germany, whose industry had been bombed to ruins, rebuilt with modern technologies. By the time of the 1967 nationalisation, Scunthorpe was still using Victorian open hearth methods. The Labour government under Harold Wilson nationalised steel under the British Steel Corporation, investing $3 billion in modernisation. Steel production was consolidated into 5 main hubs, with Scunthorpe seeing major upgrades, including conversion to the Linz-Donowitz process and new infrastructure at Immingham. At the time, leading Marxist Ted Grant wrote, "The renationalisation of steel has been revealed as a colossal rescue operation for capitalism in its most inefficient and profiteering form. Now the state undertakes a rescue operation by overcompensation to those sections of the steel industry which will not pay and which require huge sums for modernisation." The steel industry then employed 250,000 people. But when Margaret Thatcher came to power in 1979, a campaign of closures began, devastating communities like Consett and Corby, which saw unemployment soar to 30%. Ban the Specials captured the mood of destruction in their hit song Ghost Town. By 1987, following all that public investment, the Tories deemed steel profitable and ripe for privatisation. Productivity had doubled under public ownership. At the time, Tory Minister Kenneth Clarke proudly announced the plan to privatise British Steel, aiming to create national champions who would dominate global markets. But it didn't work. British Steel, struggling internationally, merged with Dutch Hugovens in 1999 to form Chorus. The new HQ was planted in London's financial district, not near the steelworks. Financial ambition overtook industrial reality. At its inception, Chorus was Europe's largest steel firm, but internal conflicts and market overcapacity crippled it. In 2007, Tata Steel bought Chorus for £5 billion, mostly financed through debt. During Tata's ownership, UK jobs were slashed, Teesside was mothballed, and the pension scheme was closed. Blaming Chinese dumping masked deeper problems, underinvestment and outdated infrastructure. With debt piling up, Tata eyed an exit, and in 2016, smaller Scottish plants were offloaded to Liberty Steels for £1 with taxpayer-funded guarantees. And the same trick was pulled at Scunthorpe, sold to Greyball Capital for just £1. Workers accepted pay cuts to keep the plant open. Greyball made millions in management fees and loan interest, but left British Steel bankrupt by 2019. And as per usual, the taxpayer picked up the pieces. Greyball's track record is a textbook case for parasitic capitalism. They bought Comet Electricals, Monarch Airlines and Morrison's Corner Shops, all collapsed, costing the public millions. Greyball operated through LLPs with offshore partners paying no tax anywhere. Meanwhile, shady dealings continued around steel globally. Pramod Mittal, for example, is being sued for £167 million over alleged fraudulent asset stripping from Global Steel Holdings. Despite facing bankruptcy claims, the Mittal family continues to live in luxury, shielded by British systems they contribute nothing toward. When British Steel fell into administration, the government scrambled to find a new owner to save face. Tata Steel, meanwhile, demanded £1.5 billion to modernise Port Talbot, eventually settling for less after melodramatic appeals to community spirit or pointing to the massive subsidies given to steelmakers across Europe and the US. But without proper public stakes for public money, European governments perpetuate the illusion of free markets while handing billions to steel giants. Under Corbyn, Rebecca Long Bailey argued for real nationalisation as the only way forward. But then in 2020, British Steel was sold to China's Yingye for around 50 to 60 million pounds. Despite promises of a £1 billion investment, Yingye only injected 156 million as a loan from its parent company, while immediately lobbying the British government for more subsidies. Facing collapse, Keir Starmer's government had three options: let Scunthorpe die, nationalise, or put it into state administration without any real ownership. And predictably, they chose the third option. So, the story of British Steel is the story of British capitalism, from innovation and dominance to complacency, decline, and parasitic profiteering. Private ownership has gutted British Steel, leaving workers and communities completely devastated. The Labour Party must return to its socialist roots. The steel industry must be nationalised without compensation to those who bled it dry and managed democratically by unions and the public. Clause 4 of the Labour Constitution, scrapped by Tony Blair, said it best: to secure to the workers by hand and brain the full fruits of their labour through the common ownership of the means of production, distribution and exchange, and the best obtainable system of popular administration and control of each industry or service. That can be the only solution for steel and for Britain. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, head over to www.lefthorizons.com, subscribe to the newsletter, and make sure to read the full article on the website. Thank you very much for watching, and we shall see you next time.